Welcome to Allie's Attic, where you never know what kind of surprise you'll find in my attic. I'm your host, Allie, and today my surprise is, let me see if I can say this all, recording artist, musician, producer, actor, and an amazing man. He has been on my show before. His original first interview, is still up on my YouTube channel. You can go check it out. But this one's cool because we're doing video, and he's got a great new song that we're going to talk about. Please welcome Jon Raven. Hello, Jon.
Hey, Allie, how's it going?
It's going all right. How about you?
It's busy as usual. I've got more irons in the fire, and I can't figure out which hand to grab which iron with.
God. Well, you do so much, Jon. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, you were taught about acting from Lou Diamond Phillips. You were like, is it Taekwondo champion? Taekwondo when you were younger?
Definitely.
And you also produce video games, right?
That's one of the things that's in process. I have a reputation of being a bit perfectionistic, and had worked with a couple of different companies and could not get things just quite the way I wanted them. So I've actually got animation software now and some very high-end and production software, and so at least getting the look the way I want it, I'm literally doing that myself.
Wow.
So it's and there's been a lot of cussing at the computer, getting through the learning curve on some of the programs, but we're getting there. So.
I know the cussing at computer. I know what that's all about, because I am not good at. I don't know how I managed to do any of this, to be completely honest, but you muddle through and you get there. So, okay, Jon, start right from the beginning. Like I said, people can go check out the first video or first interview. It wasn't a video, first interview that you were on my show. But kind of just remind everybody all about you, starting from like when you were 5 and the gospel band, the Brothers and Ruth. Now, I just want to say it's so cool that I've had you back on. You actually worked alongside the Oak Ridge Boys, and I had Joe on from the Oak Ridge Boys. So I just thought that was kind of cool. But yeah, just talk about when you started and right up to now and everything you do. And it'll probably take a while because you're a busy, busy man and you do a lot of things, like I said.
Yeah, that's funny with the Oak Ridge Boys. I think last time I would have seen him, I probably was shorter than the table that the computer's sitting on right now. So I started when I was 5. The Brothers and Ruth was actually my brother had a gospel band that the entire family was involved in, and back in the 70s, gospel was really popular, and so they would have these large gospel sings that sometimes would be 50, 60, 70,000 people at a lot of places. So when we would do those big gospel sings, it would be people like the Oak Ridge Boys and the Dixie Melody Boys, and I can't remember all of them right now, but a lot of them went on to do country, and different other type of music, just like I eventually evolved to rock and was a little more radical than the evolution of most of them. But that was how it started, and by the time I was 10, I had done 4 albums with that, and then had a little break. There's a gnat. You would think in this type of hotel I wouldn't have a gnat in my face, but when I was about 13, I sounds funny saying I took a break from work between 10 and 13.
Yeah.
But started doing some modeling in my early teens. In between all that time, I was doing the martial arts you talked about. And 13, I started modeling. One thing led to another. I won the Taekwondo championship in both forms and fighting. And the agent that I had in modeling at the time had sent me down to Dallas to meet another agent who was kind of a sister agent that was into film and TV. And because of the martial arts, I got a fight scene on a ABC TV movie of the week, which I don't think they've done those in ages. But did some stunts, and one thing led to another. And you mentioned Lou. What was funny, Lou and I both were training under a gentleman who passed away now, Adam Warwick, who's known for a lot of the old Hells Angels movies, like Hells Angels on Wheels, on and on and on.
Mm-hmm.
That he did with Jack Nicholson and a lot of those guys. Kind of his infamy was he actually passed on Easy Rider. I posted a thing not too long ago that was a story from one of the alumni from the acting school about Nicholson rubbing in one of his loyalty checks when Adam was visiting him. And Adam was also on the original pilot for Star Trek, and really took Lou and I both under his wing, and both of us in different ways have been lucky enough to make a living in this business, which can be hard.
Mm-hmm.
And segue another year or so. My mom was giving me a hard time. I hit 16, and she was like, "Well, you need to go out and get a job," because I actually was given special permission by the state that I was living in at the time. I graduated way early. The principal, I was taking law classes by the time I was 16.
Good Lord.
In college, and the principal had actually called my mother and said, "Your son is bored to death." I would get like good grief, I can't remember the word right now, but when they lay out the curriculum that you're going to have for a semester,
mm-hmm.
Or whatever, they would have that set for 3 months. I would have all the work done in 2 weeks.
Oh my God.
So I've always been a little driven.
A little.
And so when she said get a job, I took it that meant to jump in the Buick Skylark I got from my brother at the time, drove out to California, and then got a couple of really good gigs and got signed, and been rocking and rolling ever since. But get a job to me meant, oh, okay, I need to put a band together and go on tour and make a record,
Mm-hmm.
I think the only issue, and my mom's pretty funny. She'll tell people stories, and of course her favorite time of talking about me performing is when I was about the height of this table, doing gospel and that type of thing. So my mom, up until probably about 10 years ago, was still holding out that suddenly everything was going to change and I was going to be an evangelist. And then I think she finally came to grips with that just wasn't going to happen. So.
Yeah, that's funny. Now, okay, through the 80s and 90s, you were a frontman and guitarist for many bands, and you chose to start fresh with the new millennium as a solo artist, and you co-produced your first solo album with award-winning Canadian, did everybody hear me? Canadian producer, I just had to get there, Rick Kilbourne, and also Glenna Powery at Riverside Studios in Burnaby, BC, Canada, which I've been to, Vancouver, beautiful place. And then you did a second solo album as well as produced the tracks for White Raven Records producing artist Heather Ann's first solo album. Now, White Raven Records is yours, right?
Yeah, White Raven Records I shut down, but I had that for quite some time. And we had that in a publishing company. And so, yeah, we worked with quite a few new artists that we developed. But Heather she was quite a special young lady. I actually saw her performing. It was like a little showcase in a small town in Virginia. And really tiny little thing with a huge voice. And so we signed her and took her on, and ended up did a letter of reference for her at her request for the Boston Conservatory of Music, and she went up there and did very well. And she's still out there performing, be it though I think now she's doing like a performance art type thing.
Oh, okay. Well, that is cool. Now, also, you've collaborated with Grammy-winning producer Bill Cuomo. Cuomo, am I saying that right? And produced Cruel and Unusual with yourself. And also, you've worked with Grammy-winning producer Bob Kolek, Juno-winning producer Rick Kilbourne, Jeff Skunk Baxter, and you've been across the globe. You've been everywhere, and I think it's amazing.
everywhere and elsewhere. You
Yes,
know.
exactly. And then you decided to do the Rock God Entertainment Group. So talk about that. We did talk about it at the beginning a little bit, but yeah, you produce video games.
Yeah, we came up with the concept. I I went through a period with my health where I was kind of stuck on the couch and I was going crazy, and I was looking at some of the role playing games, and at the time, Guitar Hero and those type of games were becoming very popular. So we came up with the idea of merging the performance with the role playing aspect, but making it almost, if you could beat the game, it'll be more or less like an idiot's guide to becoming a rock star type thing. Real life situations where the decisions you make within the game would have real life consequences. And that's where we're just back to getting into production on that again. At the time that we originally came up with the concept, and I was working with some fantastic people and collaborating. Was being advised by people like Mark Slaughter and Eric Singer from the Eric Singer Project and Kiss and Alice Cooper, on and on and on. Danny Spitz from Anthrax. A lot of folks were bouncing ideas around. And funny enough, when we had the meeting in Canada, that was in Toronto, with some game developers, and so we're giving them the ideas, and they're all sitting there. They loved it, and when we started working on the spreadsheet, I think the spreadsheet ended up being about 150 some pages.
Wow.
Because at the time, a lot of the ideas that we had, the technology had not caught up with. So we were literally looking at trying to create our own game engine. So by the time we looked at the cost, the minimum budget was going to be around 25 million, and that was before marketing.
Wow.
So now things have come to fruition where, as I was saying, I'm doing a lot of the initial renders and things on my own, and some of the process for people that don't know. One of the first things we're going to do, and something I'm excited about anyway, because I do love film and the whole telling a story with visuals and music and all of those things, is we'll be putting together kind of a non-interactive presentation that we'll then take to some video game publishers and see if we can find the right partners to take it to the next level. But that 25 million budget that we would have been looking at a few years back, with the advances in technology now, we could probably do it for give or take around 5 million.
Oh, okay.
Because all the pieces of the puzzle are there, technology wise. Because one of the things that I wanted to do was, like Guitar Hero and Rock Band, those bands are cool. But as far as for say a front man, certain stage movements can either get a crowd going, or it can kind of be overkill, depending on the size venue you play to the size venue.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're playing in a bar and you're making motions to the crowd like you're playing to Madison Square Garden, you're going to look like an idiot.
Yeah.
If you're playing Madison Square Garden and you're barely moving and they can't see you, you're going to look like an idiot. So a lot of things like that we wanted to build into the scoring just weren't possible until things like Xbox had the Kinect. I think they're discontinuing that and coming out with something that's going to be a little better. And PlayStation and Wii came out with things now where they sense the movement, that the person's doing.
Mm-hmm.
But at the time that we had a lot of these ideas, none of that existed.
Yeah.
I think we did the original copyright on this stuff in like 2006.
Ah.
So it's yeah. Instead of me rambling on and on, it's like, long story short, yeah, we're it's one of those things we haven't given up, and it's like a lot of movies that you hear about. You go to studio after studio, and the director couldn't find what they wanted, or you couldn't get the right cast, or you couldn't get the right distributor. But things are finally falling into place for us on that.
Okay, good. I can't, and you better, please come back when that happens because that is exciting and I'm getting the game. Okay, so now you're currently the head of A&R for the legendary blues label CSP Records, which produced Fats Domino, for God's sakes.
Yeah, that's not currently. That actually, and I thought I'd revised that. It was I was working with them. That was the last gig for somebody else that I was doing.
Okay.
And that was really a fun project. Jimmy Rogers, who ran the label, fantastic guy. Think the world of him. And he had a new artist that he was trying to get developed, and so I worked with him some on that. And it was an adventure. And yeah, he had on Fats, he had I think Fats' entire Christmas music catalog.
Oh, okay.
And then he also had a lot of other people that were really well known. Kind of, if you go back many years before the internet and MTV and all of that, he had people doing better in the region down in the Delta that were really well known there. He was selling more albums than some of the major record labels were worldwide. Mm-hmm. With these regional artists. So his story is amazing, and just a great guy to work with. And it was a fun gig, and we're hoping to get to work with each other again. But he had a lot going on, and we had a lot going on, and so we stay in touch. But now I'm back to I'm working on a new album, which the reason we're talking, I just sent you the new single too.
Mm-hmm. Which I love.
The first single. Yeah, it's so it kind of worked out because I had when I was doing A&R for that company and working with Jimmy, I started having a lot of people hitting me up wanting me to work on different projects for this and that and the other, and it's cool. It's nice to be in demand, but I had things that were personal goals that I had set for getting my things out and wanting to do. So, I'm finally having the chance to do that again. And it's like you were saying about the timing on this song. I've got some things to say on this new album that are important to me that I think I'm not the only person that's experienced some of these things that I'm writing about. And so it's kind of cool to be writing again and working with some of the people that I'm working with, and just making music again. It's the business side of this it's what it is, and it's great, and I'm fortunate to get to work on that side of things. But my love is making the music.
Yeah, well, and it's called Practice What You Preach. Now, it's pretty much a rant about politicians and televangelists, right?
You better believe it. Yep. My thing is, I'll say this: I had a lot of respect, and he's being buried. I think Billy Graham was a good guy, and I'm not saying that all of them are bad. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that all religion's bad, but it's more the extremes that I'm ranting about in this. It's like these guys that, great example that's in a lot of people's recent memory is a particular evangelist in Houston that was taking a load of money from people saying how much he helped the community and this and that. And then when there was a hurricane, he had the doors to his church locked,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that kind of thing. And I think a lot of people are disgusted by that. I was talking to a friend of mine who's co-writing with me on this, who's a multi-platinum artist, and was talking about, his mother sending just boatloads of money to some of these guys that don't exactly represent themselves in an honest manner. Mm-hmm. And then when you look at what's going on with politicians, it might not be religion, but it's the same thing. And I don't care which side of the aisle they're sitting on, be it Parliament or Congress or whatever, they all have their own agenda.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And they seem to love taking things like the recent tragedy that we had here and instead of focusing on the victims and things that are important, they're more interested. And we're swatting at gnats again. They're more interested in furthering their political agenda. You know, so it's just one of those deals. I'm at a point in life, you know, and I don't know any other way to put it. I've done all kinds of different music. I've written a lot of songs, you know, about going out and having a good time, and you know, for the PG sake of PG, I'll say T and A, different things, but I don't say as much as I used to. You know, I see a lot on Facebook with I see a lot of anger with people on the different sides of different issues, and I see a lot of lack of communication. In which one thing music's great about it's disarming, and I'm not really taking any sides with this. I mean, it's like the song "No More War." And one thing I want to make clear is I'm very supportive of our troops.
Yes.
You know, I'm very supportive of the Canadian troops that fight along with us, what the Australians would. But I'm not supportive of people who have an agenda and put them in harm's way for the wrong reasons.
Amen.
You know?
Yes. Yes. I agree.
And I think we can all agree that war sucks.
Yeah.
You know, violence sucks. You know, and then when you look at what my friend and my writing partner were discussing on the side of it with some of these televangelists and things, you know, people using people's faith to con them and rip them off. That sucks.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so yeah, I'm going to rant about those things.
Good.
You know, and with real loud guitars and a whole lot of attitude.
Good.
You know?
Good. Katy Perry said it the best with the Grammys when she opened with the song she opened with. And there's a line in her song where it says, everybody needs to come down from their ivory towers and come together at a time like this. And I am so glad that you're doing something like this because it needs to be addressed by as many people as possible. And I think music is universal, like you said, and it speaks to everybody. And the more people that get the right messages across, even if they're ranting, they're bringing it to attention. And I think, I mean, if I could honestly, Jon, if I could start a movement like they did in the 60s and 70s and do a big rally worldwide to get peace back again, I so would. I'm such a flower child. It's not even funny, but the world is crazy. And I'm bringing up, you know, grandchildren in this world, and it scares the hell out of me. And I'm going to say, people know I don't like Trump. I do not like the man at all. I mean, if you do, that's fine. That's your prerogative. But I think he likes stirring controversy, and he's a bully, and he pokes people, and he's going to end up poking the wrong people. And back to what you said about our troops, I agree 100%. They're there, you know, defending whatever country they're fighting for. And that's what they signed up for. And the patriotic blood in them is amazing, but they get steered in the wrong direction and they do get put in harm's way. So what you just said is just amazing. And more people, musicians, whatever, actors, more people need to do what you're doing. So hats off to you. I applaud you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you. Well, and the thing is too, and you know, I'm not looking at these songs. Yeah, you know, funny enough, I'm not seeing what I'm saying as a political statement.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I try to steer very clear of that, but what I do see it as is there's right and wrong.
Yeah.
And you know, my brother that had the gospel band, he was a minister for many years. And he's got this great term he likes to use. He calls justified anger or righteous anger. You know, and so the angry that all of us, the angry, take two, the anger that all of us are seeing in social media and different, people have a right to be pissed off. You know, and it's not that I'm trying to tap into that pissed off, but one cool thing that you can do as an artist is there are a lot of times you look at the world around you and you see people trying to express certain things, and sometimes we're in a position to you know, sometimes for whatever reason maybe we can express it a little more clearly, or the music helps to get the point across, or whatever. And it's not that you're trying to fan those flames of the people that are pissed off and get them more pissed off, but it's saying, yeah, I understand, I get where you're coming from, but then what you can also try to do with the music is bring people together and look for solutions.
Yes, I agree 100%. I'm going to just have you on every day because I love what you say. Um, okay, so this song, like you've already mentioned, is called No More War. And I love it. I absolutely love it. I had it blasting through my speakers for my computer. My mom comes in. She's like, "Who is that?" I'm like, "That's Jon Raven. That's his new song." Um, Talk a little bit about, like, I mean, it talks about no more war. So is that the purpose of it, to talk, give people like, hey, hello?
There's always a story. There's a story. That song was actually written back in like 2000.
Okay.
And there was a much longer version, and it was originally done for a film soundtrack. And when 9/11 happened, there were some problems. I can't remember all the details, but the film never went into production, and so we had done several songs. It was Rick Kilburn and my friend Ronnie Honeycutt, who I'm doing things with now, which Ronnie was the original lead singer of the band Jackal, and a lot of the guitar work on there was myself, Ronnie, Dave Sinclair, who's another Canadian who's actually Sarah McLachlan's guitar player.
Mm.
So we had a really good group of talented people, but a lot of those mixes and arrangements and things were done for film. So we went ahead and we had released an album called Thou Shalt Not that was out to the public for a while, but I was never really happy with a lot of those mixes. There's a big difference in mixing and arranging something for film.
Mm-hmm.
And doing something that's radio friendly and, kind of just more in the style of my storytelling as opposed to adapting my storytelling to somebody else's story.
Okay.
So when I saw everything going on Facebook, a good friend of mine, Dave Hershey, had done that artwork way back. I was sitting there looking at the art one day, and I just started thinking about it, and I was looking at some things on Facebook, and it occurred to me, I was like, I said, this would be a good time to put that tune back out. And I have a lot of friends on Facebook that are veterans,
mm-hmm.
That I talk to a lot, and they were encouraging me heavily to get this back out. But I wanted to get it more radio friendly. The original version was just way too long. I worked on the song. My brother, funny enough, co-wrote it with me. It's the only thing we've co-written together. So that was kind of coming full circle, getting the song to where I wanted it. I started out singing with my brother's gospel band, and latest thing I put out was a song that we co-wrote. So that's a pretty long journey to get there.
Yeah.
But we broke it down to 3 minutes, so it would be more radio friendly. It was basically rearranged, remixed, remastered, pretty much everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it was given a much edgier, like everything from little subtle things, and I'm sure you know this, like with EQ,
mm-hmm.
And different things can paint a whole different picture with sound.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a song about saying you don't want any more war, but the original thing, and I love Rick Kilburn to death, and he did a fantastic job, specifically to the media that we believed that the music was going to. But it didn't have, for me personally to go out and perform the song live and then representing me. My wife's making fun of me, I think.
Hello, Susie. Anyway, keep going.
Okay. No, it just wasn't edgy enough. So this I'm happy with, and it was cool. Ronnie worked with me on this, and he heard it, and he said, dude, and he said, it's like a whole different song, and the publishing and everything's even very different on it. But yeah, I'm excited about it, and I hope people will get it. You know.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure they will because I did right away. And I'm going to be honest, John, when you sent it to me, I wasn't expecting that. And I was so pleasantly surprised because I'm like, yes, damn time, damn time. And I'm glad that you're going this route. Now, I just want to ask a question. Who is PV? Because you're promoting PV, right?
PV Electronics. Yeah, they actually, I'm plugging the heck out of them. They were nice enough when I was working with Jimmy with CSP. We were shooting some video, and they had loaned us some equipment, and so we had different guitars and things and amps and a lot of their products for product placement. And one of their guitars I just got really curious about, and and I was so busy, and my friend that's with artist relations in Nashville for PV, had asked me several times. He goes, "What do you think of the guitar?" And we were talking about it, and I said, "Dude, I still haven't had a chance to play it." So when I came back through Nashville and was unloading the equipment, he just turned around and he said, "Man," he goes, "keep it." So basically, the deal was, I would keep it and send a promo pic, and it turned into what's funny. This guitar is actually a bolt-on. For people that don't know, it's just what it sounds like. It's the guitars. If you look at the back of them, there's a plate and there's bolts. And every guitar that I've had for the last couple of decades was either a set neck or a neck through, which in lay terms, they're way more expensive.
Mm-hmm.
But they have a lot more sustain, and typically the tone's better. But I fell in love with this guitar. I mean, PV's worked with some great artists over the past few years, and they're doing some really innovative things with their instruments, and the development that they're doing with new instruments. And I'm trying to think of the right term. They're taking a lot of things that have become kind of boring, I think, in the music merchandise side of things, and musical instruments, and they're being really innovative and coming out with some things that are just top of the line.
Okay, cool. Good. I'm glad I mentioned them. I'm glad I mentioned them because you got a chance to plug them again. Because yeah, I was reading it and I was like, "Who is PV?" Now I know. So send me pictures of the guitar. I want to see that now. Now I'm interested. I don't play, but yeah.
There's that. Well, and what sucks, the particular one that I've got, and I was a little behind on this, but they're discontinuing this particular model, but they're coming out with some that are just absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's a picture. I'll send you one, and I think there's actually, I think my profile picture on Facebook is with that guitar right now.
Oh, okay. Okay, so then I've probably seen it. That is so cool. Okay, well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on, John. And John, I'm going to say I had somebody that was kind of like a no-show today, and you jumped in for me, and I appreciate it so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Allie, thank you. Look, I enjoyed our first get together, and enjoyed this one too. And we'll if you can put up with me, we'll keep on doing this.
Oh, definitely. Absolutely. I absolutely love you and Susie both. I love talking to you guys. So anybody that wants to check out John, go to his website, jonraven.rocks. It'll be up on my website. You can click on it and it'll go right to his website. You can listen to all kinds of his songs and find out more about him and all the stuff he's done because he's done so much and he's still doing so much. And thank you for sharing this song with me. It'll be up on my website. Everybody's going to listen to it. I'm going to promote the hell out of it because I think it's amazing. And you have a great day. Have a nice weekend. Relax. Take it easy. I know you're away. I'm going away in a few hours too, just to kind of get my head straight again. It's been a pretty crazy week. And the best to both of you. And yeah, we'll be talking again. Thank you so much, John. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining me on Allie's Attic. Keep checking my website because you never know what kind of surprises you'll find in my attic. Cheers.